Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. So this is massive. The Force Awakens, as we know, broke all sorts of records at the box office. Now the reason we're talking about it today is because Avatar: The Way of Water surpassed The Force Awakens, and that should tell you just how successful the film was. According to Deadline, the award-winning sequel by James Cameron has a worldwide gross of $2.074 billion, taking it past Episode 7 The Force Awakens by a very slim margin. The Force Awakens grossed $2.07 billion, and the Avatar film also ranked 4th place in the highest grossing films in cinema history. Current estimates suggest The Way of Water will also surpass another Star Wars movie soon, The Last Jedi, and they're talking about the highest grossing movies in the United States and Canada, so domestic box office. Now it should be said that at the time, in 2015 and the few years that followed, The Force Awakens broke quite a few records. Many of those have now been superseded by the likes of Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and Spider-Man No Way Home, but for the time, The Force Awakens was top dog, breaking all kinds of records. Here are just some of the ones it held for a few years. Fastest film to gross $1 billion. It did it in 12 days. The previous record was Jurassic World, and it was surpassed by Avengers Infinity War in 11 days. The Force Awakens was also the highest worldwide opening weekend and single weekend gross, with $529 million. The Force Awakens was also the widest IMAX release, showing at 940 screens. The previous record was Jurassic World with 809, but The Force Awakens was surpassed for this record by The Last Jedi, showing at over 1,200 IMAX theaters. That is massive. And just reading these records, I really miss that era, 2015 to 2017, where fans were super excited for the return of Luke. Fans were really hyped, really on board with Star Wars, and I miss that excitement. I really hope the next Star Wars movie in 2025 can do that. And so now, my dear friends, we're coming to the end of January. February is a very short month, and then we have a huge month of March. March is pretty much Star Wars month for 2023. Not only do we have The Mandalorian, the rest of the Bad Batch Season 2, but also Jedi Survivor. And with that in mind, will Cal Kestis appear in The Mandalorian Season 3? With the official release of the final trailer, Star Wars fans are super excited and speculating over what we can expect. I've seen tons of videos, articles, fans on social media and so on, ablaze with theories about what Season 3 is going to hold, whether it's Grogu, Djarin, Bo-Katan. Star Wars fans, myself included, are so excited. Now we've talked about various theories to do with the New Republic, Mandalore, the Order 66 flashback and so on, but today, could we see Cal Kestis in Mando? Is it a coincidence Jedi Survivor releases in the same month? Or is it deliberate? Could we see an older Cal Kestis make his way into the show? Let's dive into this. Cameron Monaghan has reiterated several times that his character is not going to appear in a Star Wars show until his story is finished in the games. Now we don't know if he's just messing with us, playing coy, but we do have to bear in mind that we don't know the plot of Survivor in its entirety, or what happens to Cal at the end. All we know is that he's a character that Lucasfilm wants to do more with. The title of the upcoming game is not just in reference to Cal himself, but also the High Republic former Jedi who's been stuck in Bacta for hundreds of years after being betrayed, the antagonist of the game. But with a release date that falls in line with the week of the 3rd chapter of Season 3, Chapter 19, fans are wondering if there are overlaps. Now we do know there's going to be some kind of crossover between The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch in terms of themes, cloning, Mount Tantis, contingency, you name it. But could Survivor offer a third layer? If Cal Kestis is still alive, how does he fit into The Mandalorian? Well, my mind goes straight to Grogu, because Grogu in his own way is a Jedi survivor. While he may have renounced the ways of the Jedi and Luke's training, he is still using the Force. We know this from the trailer. I've speculated in a previous video that maybe when we find Ezra in the Ahsoka show, he'd be suited as the perfect mentor to guide Grogu in his Force abilities, how to use them wisely. But what if Cal Kestis could fill this role instead for our little green friend? The only problem is, as we're going to Mandalore as the main plot, how does Cal Kestis fit into Season 3? Maybe if Din and Grogu go on side missions, as we know they will, to the likes of Navarro and other planets, could we come across Cal Kestis when Grogu senses him in the Force? And one thing which is not spoken about enough is that Grogu and Cal Kestis do have a lot in common. Both of them experienced tragedy at the time of Order 66 and were left for many years to fend for themselves. And when we're talking about the Mandoverse story, I wonder if Cal Kestis is someone that Luke Skywalker Skywalker met, and maybe he sends him to keep an eye on Grogu, so maybe it's Cal Kestis who seeks out the child. After all, given Luke's enormous heart and selfless character, I doubt he would just ignore Grogu's existence, even though he refused training in the Book of Boba Fett, so that could be a role that Cal could fill. Alternatively, he could be someone that Ahsoka and Sabine come across in their search for Ezra. Huge spoiler warning, but as we know from the leaks, Balon and Shin are kind of acting as inquisitors, hunting down any Force users, hoping to find a link to Ezra. Now, in case you don't know, Balon, Ray Stevenson's character, was a former Jedi, kind of like a Sabayoth, and he's hired by Thrawn, along with Morgan Elsbeth and Shin, to find Ahsoka and kill her. We had so many hints in Chapter 13. And Cal Kestis might be one of the Jedi that Balon comes across, two Order 66 survivors who went in very different directions. Balon was a Jedi Master and Kestis a Padawan at the time, but now they're older, more mature, one who remained a Jedi in hiding, and one who turned to the dark side, because Making Star will say that both Balon and his apprentice Shin wield red lightsabers. And in the Ahsoka show, could this be how Cal Kestis dies? Or maybe he jaws Balon, makes it out alive, and goes on a mission to warn other Jedi. In his search, he comes across Ahsoka, or Grogu, or both. But what I'm saying is there is a lot of potential for Cal Kestis to come into this story. According to several reports, Cameron Monaghan is a big fan of the live-action shows, and I'm sure he wouldn't turn down the opportunity. But do I really think it's going to happen? Maybe not in Season 3, but possibly Season 4 or a different spin-off. As I say, maybe the Ahsoka show. All they'd have to do is make him grow a beard, and maybe age him up a bit. So who knows, maybe Cal Kestis will appear. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think it's going to happen, or is it unlikely? And here is a very weird aside. Do you think there's a possibility of other Mandalorian Jedi out there? What if Grogu is not the only one? Now we know about Tar Vizsla in the distant past, but what about Grogu? Is he going to be the next one? Is he going to be a foundling, eventually a Mandalorian, that keeps his Force abilities? Now the reason I ask this is because we're going to Mandalore, we're going to see loads of tribes, loads of clans. Could there be someone in their ranks who is Force sensitive, who could provide training and guidance to Grogu? Now speaking of what the Mandoverse is setting up, it dawned on me that characters new and old are going to meet for the first time. Star Wars Rebels characters like Sabine, Ezra and Hera are going to be interacting in live action with the likes of Mando, Grogu, Boba Fett and so on. And one meeting I really want to see is between Grogu and Chopper. This artwork by Brian Ward reminded me of when Grogu interacted with R2 in the Mandalorian Season 2 finale. It's a lovely piece with Lothal in the background. Of course, many fans are convinced in the case of R2 that he recognized Grogu. Many fan theories at the time stated R2 may have saved Grogu. Share your thoughts on this and everything we spoke about in today's video. If you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and if you want lots of videos not found here on YouTube, then click the link down below. But until the next one guys, may the Force be with you always.